Okay, hola a todos. I'm going to do this in English because part of what I want to talk about here is the meaning in English of the different if clauses. So to get started here, cláusulas condicionales are the if clauses, if being the conditional marker in English. And so there are three particular kinds that we're going to talk about: presente real, presente imposible o improbable, and pasado imposible. Okay, these basically are, these are in the Proyectos book as well. You've got an exercise on this. But these, the mindsets, really, the situational context for conditional clauses. So I want to explain about each of these in succession. All right, so presente real. Here's an example of what we mean by this. In the present, when you're in the present tense, wondering about something, si tengo tiempo, excuse me, si tengo tiempo, iré or voy a ir al parque más tarde. Okay, those are the two clauses in different colors here. Si tengo tiempo, iré, and the consequence of that, right? So you're proposing something here, that's the consequence later, if this is true. Note that the time frames here are, the first clause after si is in the present, the second clause is in the future. Okay, the meaning in English is fairly straightforward. If I have, also in the present in English, and I will go, that's the future in English. Note that I put this in parentheses to indicate the speaker's mental framework here. The speaker proposes this idea of possibly being able to go, thinking that it's a possibility. Presente real. It's real for the speaker in the present tense. Okay. The next one. Second was presente imposible o improbable. And for this one, we're talking about a present tense situation where you're proposing some hypothesis, right? And I'll use the same one here, but you don't really think it's possible, or you know it's not possible, right? So you use a different time frame and mode to present that mental framework, right? You say, si tuviera tiempo. That tuviera indicates that, the imperfect subjunctive, indicates that you don't really believe it, or you know it's impossible, all right? You don't think it's likely, it's maybe impossible. The next clause has, for its verb, the conditional tense, iría, okay? So what that means, of course, is if I had time, but I doubt I will, I would go to the park, okay? So when you decide as the speaker to, or the writer, to employ this framework, right, imperfect subjunctive with conditional, you're signaling what you think about it, right? And that's a very important difference compared to the first one, right? And that's what these verb tenses and modes can do. They're powerful. Third one, pasado imposible. Si hubiera tenido tiempo. Okay, that's the pluscuamperfecto de subjuntivo. Si hubiera tenido tiempo, habría ido al parque más tarde. Now, basically, we're replaying the past here. We're saying, what if things had been different, right? So you're proposing a different thing that happened, right? You're saying, if I had had time in the pluscuamperfecto de subjuntivo, then I would have gone, conditional perfect. Okay, so these are pairs that work together to create this hypothesis, this looking backwards and saying, what if things had been different? Okay, so in the English is if I had had time, right? Now it's a little, it looks maybe a little bit confusing, had. Could be if I had gone, if I had eaten, right? If I had flown, whatever it might be. This is your past participle, okay? It happens to be the same as the helping verb, which is simply the past tense of that helping verb, okay? If I had had time, but I didn't have time, I would have gone to the park later. Okay, this way you might, if your work is a visual thinker, you might consider this as turning your head backwards and proposing a different story than actually happened, right? Okay, here we go. Then a couple of observations I have here, just two. First one is that it's common for us to think sometimes that si, it launches the subjunctive, because in the present, in the numbers 2 and 3 that we just saw, si is followed by the subjunctive. right? However, it's not the present subjunctive. So you never use si, for example, si tenga, right? If I have time. That's just a very common instinct that we have learning Spanish, and you just want to be sure that you don't actually employ it. Um, um, you use one of the three forms that we talked about, right? Ok, the second one. Hay una forma común, coloquial y no estándar del pasado imposible. So this is something that you hear and you can even read frequently, all right? And so it's important to know it and recognize it. However, it's not standard. So in a writing class, in whatever writing you engage in, it's something to avoid. Speaking is you're perfectly understood, although the standard form, which we've just looked at actually, for pasado imposible, is the better of the two if you're not sure, okay? Or if you need to, if you're thinking maybe I should be in standard Spanish. Okay, standard meaning the one that's used commonly for purposes of media, business, government, right? Reading and writing for the most part. Okay, estándar. Si hubiera sabido la verdad, no habría hablado con ellos. Okay, so that's, excuse me. That's the standard form. If I had known the truth, I wouldn't have spoken with them. Okay, we've just gone over that before. This is the one I'm referring to, the parallel form, right? It's colloquial. It's informal. Si habría sabido, no habría hablado. So you're repeating the conditional, basically. Here you use the conditional perfect instead of the pluscuamperfecto, the subjuntivo. In English, it's parallel, right? We hear this in English as well. If I would have known the truth, I wouldn't have spoken with them. People say that all the time. And so it's not so much wrong because it's common usage, but the register is informal. Again, if there's any element of formality to what you're doing, speaking or writing, then you want to go with the standard form. Okay, that's all.